Hey guys, what is going on? Inception here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about my opinion on whether or not you should get certain prime icons. When you get some of these cards, you will notice some good and bad things with them. Now, again, this is very down to my own opinion. Everybody has their own opinion about these cards as to whether or not they like them. So if I don't like a card, that's not a... a reason for you not to like a card, right? It's just my opinion as to why I think certain cards will either play very good or very bad. So we're gonna start off with Pele. Pele is the typical one. He's the highest. I think he's the highest rated icon in the game. Yes, he is. Maybe even player right now. I'm not sure if Ronaldo has hit 98 yet on his inform cards. I feel like he has, but in regards to the Prime Pele card, we're gonna go look at his specific stats. So Prime Pele is basically perfect at everything that you need him to be good at, right? So his acceleration and sprint speed is there. He has 95 acceleration, 95 sprint speed. I'm sorry if you guys can hear stuff in the background. 94 agility, 93 balance. So on the ball, he's going to move very quickly. He has 98 reactions, 97 ball controls, 96 dribbling, 98 composure. So that composure will also help with his dribbling as well. Now, if we look at his traits, he does have the technical dribbler trait. So technical dribbler will help out with him taking those small little intricate touches, whether you're doing LTRT or L2R2 if you're on the PlayStation dribbling, where you kind of move up, down, left, right really quickly. He'll be very good at doing that. He has the finesse shot trait, so if you're taking a long shot with him outside the box and you want to do a finesse shot like Messi does on his 90-degree angles, Pele is going to feel very good for you. He also has 5-star skill move, so a very fun player to use. He has a 4-star weak foot, which is great to have with 98 finishing. So if you use this card, there's only a few reasons why you may not like it, right? The only reason why you may not like the card is because the 5'8" height doesn't work for you. But I don't think with Pele's card that the 5'8" height would be a problem, because he has so many stats that make up for the lack of height that I genuinely don't think it's going to be a huge problem. He has 86 stamina with 88 jumping and 94 heading accuracy. So just because he's 5'8" doesn't mean the guy can't jump. He can jump, right? Pele also has 76 strength, which is quite decent to have for someone who's going to be rapid on the ball. He's going to be very quick. The lack of aggression in terms of getting the ball back will be a little bit underwhelming because the aggression is 59, but this card looks like it would be absolutely fantastic to use and definitely worth trying out, right? Since they have these prime icons, they give you that option, right, where you can try them out as loan cards. So it's best to try this card out with a loan card on it. Honestly, if it was me, I would put probably Hunter on him. I know that doesn't really make much sense because you want to upgrade other areas. And maybe even upgrade the physical so that his strength is a little bit better. Maybe if you can upgrade the pace, shooting, and physical. I'm pretty sure there's a card that exists like that, but I can't remember exactly which one it is. Maybe that would be the most ideal thing to do. But the card does look fantastic. I do think that it would play really well in game. Is it worth 15 million coins? I don't know if it's actually 15 million because I'm on Footbin right now. I'm not sure if it works that way. But, I mean, dude, it's Pele, right? If Pele is one of the greatest legends of all time. If you get like Pele, Maradona, it's a fun card to get, right? So Pele would definitely be a really good card to use in game. Again, the only reasons why you may or may not like him is because of height, and the strength or the physical aspect might hinder you a little bit. But I just think that he would be, honestly, maybe a better version of Maradona, I would say. So I'll definitely try that out for sure. Next player we have is Diego Maradona. So Diego Maradona is a player with people that they kind of think like, is he good? Is he bad? Maradona is a good card in this game. Now, there's certain things, again, that you notice with the card that can be a little bit hindering to his performance in game. He has a 3-star weak foot. I will always notice comments in the chat saying that the 3-star weak foot is an issue, blah, blah, blah. This is always an issue if you're looking at the specifics, right? Now, is it a big issue with this card? No, because he's basically like a card similar to Mohamed Salah's 92 card, like his higher versions of his card. He does have a 2-star weak foot, Mohamed Salah, but he still has other stats that make up for the fact that he does have that 2-star weak foot. He's a fantastic card to use in the game, right? But every single time you will always notice that weak foot, but you can kind of work around it because he's so fast on the ball and so fun to use that it wouldn't necessarily present to be a big problem. When I've used Maradona, his weak foot is very noticeable. His strength on the ball is actually quite decent. The reason why, right, is because he has 94 acceleration with 90 sprint speed, as well as having 98 bounce, but he also has 76 aggression, right? So 76 aggression is very nice to have when you're attacking and defending. So as you guys know, with defending, if you spam B, your player tries to kind of like push into the ball more, right? So if you spam B and you're careful how you spam B, he kind of like aggressively pushes towards the ball, right? If you're attacking, it kind of works the same way, right? Like if he's challenging up against a really good center back, that center back might have the physical, but Maradona might have the pace as well as the aggression hand in hand with each other to outbody, you know, a center back to get the ball. That's why people wonder, like, why is a 5'4" player beating my prime Rio Ferdinand? It's because he has the pace and he has the aggression to be able to not push. He won't be able to outbody Ferdinand, but he will be able to kind of sneak towards getting the ball. That's why Team of the Year Conte is such a good CDM, right? He's a Team of the Year. He's short, but he has really high acceleration, sprint speed, as well as very good defensive stats with really good aggression, right? So that's what makes these cards so good. So when you look at this card, he would be either a fantastic cam, striker, whatever you want to use. The 5'4" height is incredibly noticeable in game, but if you're using like a 4-2-3-1 narrow formation, I feel like having Maradona as a left cam would definitely be beneficial. If we look at the traits that he has, he does avoid using the weaker foot, which can present to be a problem if you want to do a driven shot, because driven shots is the most effective way to score goals in FIFA. So not being able to consistently shoot with his weaker foot could present to be a problem. Now, because he has a finesse shot trait, it really depends on how you play in the game, right? So if he has a finesse shot trait, you can kind of do this thing with him where you can put him as a right cam, because if you cut inside with him and he has a free shot for a finesse shot, I guarantee you that if you put the right amount of power into the shot, he's probably going to put him into the back of the net more often than he's going to miss them, because those finesse shots, when he's at an angle or at a 90-degree angle, same thing with like Lionel Messi and stuff, it's so effective. It's more effective to take those shots than it is to do driven shots inside the 18. Driven shots inside the 18 are inconsistent since the last patch, but this finesse shots, sometimes the goalies, when they dive, they don't actually dive fully. They don't dive with their like arms completely extended out, so they'll dive like this, right? You'll notice that when they'll save it, they'll go like this, like backwards. They won't go to the side, they'll go backwards this way. So because they do this, that finesse shot is very effective to use. You'll notice that a lot of pro players, a lot of them have that style of taking that long shot, because if they have players like Maradona, he's going to take really, really good ones. There's certain traits that I'm not really sure what they do, right? So for instance, the playmaker traits, I don't know what it does. The thing about traits is that they're very noticeable, and I'll talk about this in another video. Traits are very noticeable, especially with that finesse shot and the long shot traits, right? So in regards to flair, he'll be able to take those, you know, those fancy passes, right? You know, those, when you hold LT or L2, he'll do those fancy passes, which is kind of irrelevant to do in general. But yeah, he does have a shooting stats. Shooting trait. He does have the finesse shot trait. He has a technical dribbler, so you know that when he's on the ball, he's going to move very, very well and very quickly, right? So another fantastic card to use. Again, nothing really missing with this card in terms of it being bad. He even has the physical concept, although the thing that you're going to hate with two things is going to be the 5'4" height and the 3-star weak foot. So, on to the next card here. We have Prime Ronaldo. Now, I've tried out Prime Ronaldo on the Xbox one time, because they give you the loan card, right? So if you look at his stats, I don't think, personally speaking, I don't think that there is a bigger cheat code than this Prime Ronaldo. I love Cristiano Ronaldo in FIFA. That guy is literally a game changer. I choose a rare gold Ronaldo over a Prime Ronaldinho. That's how much I think Ronaldo makes a difference in gameplay. This Prime Ronaldo card, when you use him, it's a cheat code to use him. It's disgusting how good he is, right? Because listen to this. He has 5-star skills with a 5-star weak foot. That 5-star weak foot's a big one, because he has 98 finishing, 93 shot power, great shooting stats in general, right? His composure is 89 with, you know, very good agility and very good balance, considering that the height that he is. He is 6 foot tall with 91 agility and 85 bounce, as well as 85 strength. But that's not even it. He also has a big physical stature in game, right? So that's what they do with most of the prime icons. They give them this big physical stature that even if they're missing a little bit of physical stats, they're still going to be somewhat effective. That's not the case with this card, because this card actually does have the strength. So because he's huge in game, muscle-wise in game, his strength being 85, there's literally nothing wrong with this card. This card would basically be perfect. Now, if we look at his traits, he also has technical dribbler. So a guy that big, moving that quickly on the ball is going to be fantastic. He tries to defeat the defensive line, so that's actually very nice. So if you use the instructions of get in behind and press the back line, or just get in behind, he'll always be in a very good position right on side. And he kind of like, you can notice that when you're using this player, they time their run, right? So the onside run, they can time it, right? If you're running with him, he also does have the dribbler and the speed dribbler trait. So if you're holding our trigger and you want to cut left and right with him really quickly, he's going to do that very nicely for you. His passing stats are not an issue because he's a striker. You know, 73 passing is good enough for his card, right? For me personally, I would probably give him either a catalyst, because making his passing would be a little bit better, but I would still even consider giving him Hunter. Now, the reason why people always wonder why would I still give these cards Hunter is because you want the finishing or the shooting stats in general to be as good as it possibly can, right? So 98 finishing, and this, again, this is in my opinion, it's not 99 finishing. 93 shot power is not 99 shot power, right? You want consistency with your players when they're your striker in front of goal. So I would highly recommend putting a Hunter card on this Ronaldo card. But if you notice that like you don't really care for those things, it would be more ideal to improve probably his dribbling and shooting, right? Because his acceleration and sprint speed is already 97, 97. So if you give him a sniper card, you will improve his balance by a little bit, which is a very, very big thing considering his physical stats are already very nice. I'm not sure if there's any card that gives physical shooting and dribbling, but if there is, definitely would be ideal to do that as well. Again, the card looks perfect. I used him for one game. It was disgusting how good he actually was. And the thing about this card, right, is that if your gameplay is sluggish, he's still going to play like a beast in it because of how strong he is on the ball. Because when the gameplay is sluggish, the really powerful players are the ones that usually do really well. Like Ronaldo will feel like an Akinfenwa, right? But he'll still feel significantly better than other players, right? So, you know, the thing about using players like Maradona and Pele is that if your gameplay ends up not being very good or it's very sluggish, then they're not going to play to their full potential. But a Ronaldo will play really well in whatever gameplay that you have. So definitely worth checking out that card. This Prime Ronaldinho card. This card is another example of a card that's essentially perfect. Now, when you look at the card, you kind of know right off the bat that it's impossible to not like this card. Anybody that doesn't like using this card, it's only because they have the resources to be able to use a different type of player in his position. But this Ronaldinho card, it's impossible not to like, right? I wouldn't even accept someone saying that they don't like him, because if you look at his stats, he's perfect at everything. There's actually nothing wrong with him, right? Now, his defensive stats being low is irrelevant because he's an attacker, right? If you're using him as a cam or a striker, it's not necessarily irrelevant in general, because it's nice when your striker and your cam has defensive stats so that they can actually try to win the ball back. But obviously, not everything could be perfect in your team, right? So in regards to Ronaldinho, 94 acceleration, 91 sprint speed. But here's the kicker, right? 94 agility with 89 balance while also being 5'10" means he's going to be an absolute tank on the ball with 94 composure. He has 93 finishing with 86 shot power. If we look at his traits, he also has the finesse shot trait. He also has the technical dribbler trait and the chip shot trait. Chip shot trait, it's actually very noticeable in the game. And again, we'll get into this in another video, but chip shot, it's very noticeable when someone actually has a trait because of the way that the goalie, it's not the way that the goalie reacts, it's the way that the player does the chip more consistently, right? So this card would just be absolutely fantastic to use, right? There's just nothing wrong with him. He even has the physical presence in the game. He has 94 acceleration with 91 sprint speed with an 84 strength with 70 aggression while also being, again, because he's a prime icon, he has that big physical stature in game. So he's going to move like an absolute god in the game. Every time I get him in the draft, I absolutely love using him. Now, the thing about Ronaldinho is, like I was saying earlier, I would choose a rare gold Ronaldo over Ronaldinho. But at the same time, I would use a prime Ronaldinho over Ronaldo as a cam. So this card would be beautiful to use as a cam because he's got the height, 86 jumping. He doesn't have the heading accuracy, which isn't a problem. As long as he's got that jumping and he can actually win a ball in the air, it's definitely ideal to have for your player when they're in the middle of the pitch, right? So players who are small are not really going to win the ball that often in the middle of the pitch, but someone like Ronaldinho can actually win the ball because he's got decent height with decent strength and decent jumping. So again, another fantastic card to use. He also has high-low work rates, so you know, attacking-wise, this guy's going to be an absolute monster to use. I've taken finesse shots with this prime Ronaldinho card in draft. I'm telling you guys, man, if I had this team in Foot Champs, it's disgusting what you can do with these players. It's your gameplay is, if you're a decent player, your gameplay is completely revolutionized when you get these cards. It's so different. Next up, we have Lev Yashin. So in regards to Lev Yashin's card, we don't really have to look at the specifics. So we look at the base stat upgrade. So we have the 95 diving, the 96 reflexes, the 65 speed, the 95 positioning, and the 75 kicking. Now, in regards to whether or not you should get this card, it's already a big fat no. This card is not worth getting. Van der Sar is not worth getting. None of the icon goalkeepers in general are worth getting. The reason being, right, is because those cards don't have the leg save trait. The leg save trait is what makes a goalie very good or very bad. So when a goalie doesn't have the leg save trait, which to be honest I wish was removed, and I wish, because here's the reason why I wish the leg save trait was removed. If you remove the leg save trait, more goalkeepers would be usable, right? So that you would actually be able to tell if a goalie is very good or very bad. A goalie nowadays, in my opinion, is considered bad when they don't have that leg save trait because it just makes the biggest difference, because most people in the game do the driven shot in FIFA, and because they do the driven shot, it's more ideal to have a goalie that actually sticks out his leg rather than try to die for it, because if they stick out their leg more consistently, because that's what the leg save trait does. The leg save trait just does it does the leg save more consistently. It's not to say that someone who doesn't have it doesn't do it at all, but they just don't do it as consistently, right? And consistency is what you need for goalies to be good or bad. I'm almost certain that most pro players in the tournament that is happening right now are using goalkeepers that have the leg save trait, i.e. only David De Gea. So that's what I would say in regards to Lev Yashin. So that's why I'm not really looking into it too much, whether it's the hat thing or not the hat thing. It's just not worth the money you pay for it because he's not going to play that well for you. Paolo Maldini is a card that I mentioned in a previous video. I think it was for, I think the cards were, it was Maldini, Hullet, and Ronaldo, I believe. This Maldini card as a center back is an absolute monster, okay? 65 agility with 69 balance is not bad for a center back because he has 85 acceleration with 86 sprint speed. His defensive stats in general are god tier: 96 interceptions, 93 heading accuracy, 95 marking, 97 standing tackle, and 96 sliding tackle. The standing tackle and the sliding tackle are very important for them to be that high up in stats because, again, because defensive AI is very effective in this year's game, it's just really good to use those cards because they're going to be able to, slide tackle or do that sliding tackle in order for them to block certain shots that your opposition does against you, right? Physically, he's an absolute monster too, right? 79 aggression with 85 strength, 81 stamina, and 84 jumping is very, very nice to have for a card. He's going to move, again, very quickly on the ball and off the ball for a center back, so he would just be absolutely god tier to have. 6'1" height with 84 jumping and 85 strength with 93 heading accuracy is not bad at all. So if you were to get this card, it would definitely be worth getting. He would be one of the best center backs you've ever used, and hands down. There would be no question. There would be no ifs, ands, or buts to it. Now, if you're using someone like Eric Bailly can do a great job for you. Is it worth spending 2.3 million coins? It is if you have all the extra money, right? So yeah, Maldini will definitely be worth checking out for anybody's team for sure. Obviously, if you get the card, because his defensive stats are already pretty high up there, it would be more ideal to actually put an anchor card on him, because since his defensive stats are already high up, it's nice to improve the pace and the physical so that he has... The aggression is very nice, right? Because if he's chasing after somebody, let's just say your fullback went to attack, right? And then your center back has to kind of occupy the general area of the fullback that left, he'll be able to aggressively get the ball back with 85 acceleration, 86 sprint speed. And if you improve his aggression by giving him the anchor chemistry style, then it would definitely be ideal to have. So the way that Footbin says that it increases is by 10. I don't think that it increases by 10, but I think it's definitely worth trying out to see if it makes any significant difference whatsoever. Again, I don't think it's upgraded by the 10s like it says here. I think it's more like the 4s or the 3s or the 5s. Because 10 is such a big boost that, you know, with most cards, like if you give a Hunter card to Martial, there would be no reason to get his informs in Team of the Seasons because the stats are already so high up. So I wish there was more transparency with those specific stats, but I just don't think it's up by 10. Personally, but still I would definitely put an anchor card on him. Do I think it would change the aggression a little bit? I would hope so. I just don't think it's upgraded by 10 like it does say. Thierry Henry is another card. So Thierry Henry is a type of card where he's a weird one, right? The reason why he's a weird one is because it's tough to say what makes this card good or bad. So some players really like the Thierry Henry card, and then some players don't like the Thierry Henry card. So if we look at the specific stats, he has, well, traits-wise, he has tries to beat defensive line. So if you tell your striker to get in behind again and press the back line, he's going to do a very, very good job at doing that. Even getting behind, he'll try to play on side, he'll try to make those really good runs, right? Awesome to have. Shooting and finesse shot, also very good to have, considering his shooting stats in general are also very good. Speed dribbler, so as he's running, he'll be able to move left and right really quickly. He also has the chip shot trait, so consistently wise in terms of finishing, he would also be very good. And he also has the flare. Flare's kind of irrelevant, but just for the fun concept, definitely nice to have. Now, in regards to whether or not this player is good, so this is, when you look at Thierry Henry's card, the card that you can somewhat compare him to is to Ronaldo's regular card, right? So if we look at Ronaldo's regular card, right? Let's just go to his Team of the Year, for instance, right? The balance is low, but everything else is pretty much good. This is a Team of the Year, so his passing is better and all that kind of stuff, but just take into mind, right? He has very similar stats to Thierry Henry. If anything, the Thierry Henry, trait-wise, looks better, right? Because Ronaldo has the shooting and generally has the dribbling, but so does Thierry Henry. If you look at Thierry Henry's card, traits-wise, he also has the dribbling trait. Now, the thing that's missing with these cards is the technical dribbler. That's what makes the prime Ronaldo so good in this game, is that technical dribbler trait. So they can, really intricately just touch the ball just in the smallest ways to get the better angle to shoot or just to get in a better position to pass the ball and whatnot, right? Now, the reason why you may not like this card, and it's the biggest reason why you may not like the card, is because of the 66 balance, right? Now, it's the same thing with Ronaldo, right? But for some reason with Ronaldo's card, the balance is still very noticeable. It's noticeable on both cards. It's noticeable on Thierry Henry, and it's also noticeable on the Cristiano Ronaldo. The thing about Cristiano Ronaldo's balance is that it doesn't seem as big of an influence as it does on Thierry Henry's card. On Thierry Henry's card, the balance is just more noticeable, because if you look at Ronaldo's card, he has 63 balance. Thierry Henry doesn't have 63 balance, he has 66 balance. So if anything, a Thierry Henry should play somewhat better than a Ronaldo should, because his dribbling stats in general are very good. He has similar traits to him. So I feel like Thierry Henry is definitely that interesting one that is either a hit or miss. I think he would obviously be better than someone like Anthony Martial, right? So if I were to get the card, I think he would still be absolutely god tier in comparison, because he also has medium work rates, right? So medium work rates would be quite nice, because with medium work rates as a striker, you could kind of decide, you could kind of I can't remember the word right now, but you can kind of dictate the way that he actually makes the runs. Because if you tell him to put, if you put certain instructions on him, like get him behind and press the back line, he's really going to do that with the traits and that with the trait that he has and the instructions that you're putting on him. But if you also tell him to be a balanced striker, he'll play more to his trait right? But he'll also be that balance striker where he's going to play out like a false nine sometimes. He'll make those runs in behind. So it's actually better to try out Thierry Henry with the instruction of just balance to see how he moves around on the pitch, because you don't necessarily need to tell him to get in behind, because him trying to beat the defensive line kind of already helps with that, right? So if I were to get the card, I would really consider putting Hunter on him, making his pace really god tier, because his physical is already very good. He's a big player in game as well. He has the physical capabilities, absolutely. And he has 94 acceleration, 94 sprint speed with very, very good shooting stats. But like I said, with FIFA's finishing being very, very inconsistent, and sometimes like even these players can miss the entire net, you want to make their finishing as good as possible. So I would highly recommend putting Hunter on him so that he's faster and he also has better shooting stats in general. So next card we got here is Marco van Basten. So with Marco van Basten's card, it's not necessarily a terrible card, but it's not necessarily an ideal card either, right? So if you don't mind a striker that's slow and your build-up play is slow, or you're using like that 4-1-2-2 where your Van Basten is slow, but you have your striker to be really quick, you wouldn't be necessarily that bad. Now, if you look at the traits with his card, he does have the shooting traits, the finesse shot trait, the ultimate... I don't know what ultimate professional does, in all fairness. It's not something you really notice in game. He has a technical dribbler, so that's nice in terms of dribbling on the spot, right? Because his pace is very low, you obviously want to improve his pace. So giving him a Hunter would be more ideal. Giving his shooting stats to be, or making his shooting stats better would definitely be the thing to, or the way to go. He's 4-star, 3-star, so he doesn't have any skills. So he does have the 4-star weak foot. Now, again, this is the type of card that if you're using him in the team, professionals would never be caught dead with this card because he's too slow and his balance is too low. And with everything hand in hand, right? If this acceleration and sprint speed is like 90s and his balance is low, then it wouldn't necessarily be a problem. But because the pace is low, professional-wise or people who really, really take the game seriously wouldn't necessarily be caught dead using this card. Fun-wise, and if you're a fan of Van Basten, he would be great to use, man. The fact that he has technical dribbler definitely helps to his card being better. So on the ball, he's not going to play awful, right? He's going to be a very, very usable card, right? He's going to be able to take those long-range finesse shots, which is very nice to have. So if you put him as a left striker, if you cut inside with him, he'll take a very nice shot. Shooting stats in general are very good. His passing stats, short passing-wise, is okay. So if you're using him in a 4-1-2-2, that would be more ideal to do. But if you're using him in a 4-2-3-1 where he's your lone striker, it could present to be a little bit of a problem, because it's nice when the player who's your lone striker has the pace, right? His physical stats aren't bad at all. Again, prime cards are very big physical stature wise in game. Almost dropped my water bottle. He has 82 strength with 85 jumping and 90 heading accuracy. So, you know, if you cross the ball into the box, he's got 6'2" height with decent heading stats in general. So yeah, it's definitely worth using this card. Again, pro players would never be caught dead with this card, but a good player would still be able to use this card to its full potential and still have a lot of fun with it, because it looks like a really good card. Not necessarily meta-wise, but a good enough card. Ruud Gullit's card is an obvious like yes to it, right? Again, another card where, taking everything into consideration with all the stats together, there's really nothing wrong with this card. If you actually use this card as a cam, it would be amazing, because he has defensive stats, right? It's nice to have a cam that if you tell him to come back on defense, or you tell him to be on balance and defensive, like you'll have that extra defensive presence in the middle area, right? So you'll have a player that can actually intercept the ball, because when you have some people, when they play foot champs, they'll use players that are small, right? Like let's just say like the pros, they're using like Pele, Messi, and all those kind of guys, right? Attacking wise, those guys are absolutely better than Gullit, absolutely. But if you're a more defensive minded person, if you're using like a 4-2-3-1 wide formation, and you have a Ruud Gullit as your cam, a Patrick Vieira, and a Team of the Year Conte or something, that's a very solid ground to build a midfield off of, right? Because there's such a good balance there with attacking and defensive presence, right? Now, with Gullit, it would be very situational, right? Because since his defensive stats are very good and he has a very good all-round stats in general, maybe it would be more ideal to use him as a CDM. But be careful if you use him as a CDM, because if you do use him as a CDM, he does have high-medium work rates, right? So he does have high attacking and medium defensive work rates. So you have to be very careful with a card like this. When I used Tolisso as one of my CDMs, I've always noticed that Laurent Blanc was always missing that extra player on the side for me to block that general area, right? So you have to be very careful when you're using a card like Hullet as a CDM because of that. But if you like that extra attacking presence, Hullet's going to be very good for you, man. Attacking-wise, he's an absolute monster. The thing that I've noticed the most on this card is the 87 aggression. Now, if he's going head-to-head with a defender or any center back or any fullback for that matter, the thing about aggression is that when you're going after someone, it makes your player quicker when you spam B, right? So that's the thing that's very noticeable on his card. The 87 aggression with 85 acceleration and 87 sprint speed, he just pushes after the ball like an absolute animals, right? So I would definitely recommend getting this card if you're looking for a full meta type player in your team. But I also think that the second last version of Hullet's card is also fantastic, right? He has all the right defensive stats, considering all the great stats he has in every other area. Just look at this card. There's another card that has absolutely nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing. He lacks in defensive stats a tiny bit, but if you give him a shadow card, he's amazing, right? So if you look at the traits as well, he also has dribbler, speed dribbler, and power header. So that's actually very nice to have if he's playing in the midfield for you to win those 50-50s in the air, right? So definitely would recommend getting the Ruud Hullet, whether it's the second last version or the prime version of his card. He's just an absolute monster. I don't see how someone can ever have a problem with that card, because I think he would just be disgusting in anybody's team. Next card that we have up on our list is Lothar Matthäus. So Lothar Matthäus is the type of card, right? So here's the thing that I need to mention with these cards, right? If you come from players like Arturo Vidal's inform and stuff, and you go to switch to a Matthäus card, Matthäus is obviously going to play significantly better than you. So when I'm talking about whether or not these cards would be good or bad, just take that into consideration, right? Like, obviously a lot of these cards would be better than players like Martial and stuff. It's just taking into consideration which types of players you can have in each position. So in regards to Lothar Matthäus' card, the card would play somewhat decently in the game, right? So he has 93 acceleration, 85 sprint speed, 77 agility with 81 balance. Now, it's not necessarily a huge problem with his card because he is 5'8", so the agility being... It's not necessarily... Well, I don't know how to say this. It is kind of a problem that his agility is 77, so he'll move very slowly on the ball, right? Especially if you want your players to move as quickly as you possibly can. It would be better, right, if Lothar Matthäus was the one with 81 agility and 77 balance, because he's 5'8", 77 balance wouldn't be that big of an influence on him, but the 81 balance or the 81 agility would definitely have a huge influence on the card. Now, if we look at his traits, right, he has the long shot traits, the shooting traits, the dribbler, and the speed dribbler. He doesn't have technical dribbler. So when you're dribbling with him at his feet and you're not running with him, he's going to feel somewhat sluggish. You're going to feel that a little bit, right? Somewhat. But he's still going to play better than most center mids in the game, right? He has very good shooting stats with 81 finishing, 97 shot power, 96 long shots. So if you pop a long shot with him, it's probably going to be very good, especially since he does also have the 4-star weak foot. High work rates is very nice to have for a center mid in terms of attacking and defending. So if you tell your player to stay back while attacking, he'll still attack sometimes, but he'll also defend a lot more because of the high defensive work rates. Physically, he's pretty decent as well, 78 strength with 93 aggression. 93 aggression is very nice to have, again, with 93 acceleration, 85 sprint speed. So defensively, he's actually going to play quite decently. He has sliding tackles that are really good, sliding tackles that are really good interception. So definitely a card that's worth trying out in your team. If you want him to play better defensively, I would definitely recommend giving him a shadow card to make him as defensively good as possible, considering the height that he is. But if you want him to have a better attacking presence, I would definitely put Hunter on him as well. You want to be able to increase his sprint speed as much as possible. Since his acceleration is very good, you do want to increase that sprint speed a little bit to make him significantly better. But the card does look like it would be decent. I have tried out this card, I would say, twice in the draft, and I did like using him. I was very fortunate enough to use him in a 4-1-2-2 bracket 2 variation of the formation, where it's the narrow variation of the 4-1-2-2. and he played the role really well. As a center mid, he moved left and right really smoothly for the most part, right? You really do notice the agility in the game with Lothar Matthäus' card. Next card we have is Javier Zanetti. So this one is a new one who recently came out, right? This card is an interesting one. So he looks like a decent right back, but I would still 100% prefer to just get Antonio Valencia over this card, because if you look at Antonio Valencia's card, the most noticeable things, right? Let's just say if you're getting the inform version of the card, the most noticeable things with fullbacks is always the pace and the physical, right? Defensive stats as well, but it's mostly the pace and the physical, because your player who's a fullback needs to catch up to players. Sometimes you switch to your fullbacks to push them into the center back area because they're the ones that have more pace to be able to defend against certain players better, right? So with 90 acceleration, 89 sprint speed, with 83 aggression, that's a very, very, very big thing that makes Valencia a very good card. Now, if you look at Zanetti's card, right, for a fullback, it's always about the pace and the physical. But if you look at Zanetti's card, he does have a very good all-round card, right? So he does also have the high work rates. He's got the 4-star weak foot. But the thing that's a kicker with this card, right, that's a very good kicker, is that he has good passing stats, right? That's the thing that Valencia's card's missing. So because Zanetti has good passing stats, if you're playing a formation that is a wide variation of a formation, his passing is going to be very good to curve the ball just on the outside and then leave it on the inside. Agility being 79 isn't bad with 85 balance while being 5'10", 85 acceleration with 87 sprint speed. So absolutely 100% you have to give him shadow. Now again, this is the reason why people think that if you put the chemistry style, it would be better than Antonio Valencia, because they think that if you put shadow, it's 99 acceleration and 97 sprint speed. That's just not the case, because if you put a shadow card on a prime Zanetti and you put a shadow card on Valencia, you will 100% notice that Valencia is a faster player than Zanetti in the game, right? But I do still think that the shadow card does significantly improve the pace in defending by a little bit. I think it's more like the 3s or 4s, or maybe it's more down to characteristics of how a player plays in game. I don't think that these stats, again, are a good representation, or these stat increases from chemistry styles is a good representation of how a player will actually play in game. But you really don't need to touch his physical stats in general, because his strength and aggression is very good. Now, the thing that you will notice about this card, right, is that he does have 55 jumping with 5'10" height. That can present to be a problem. Reason being is because players, the crossing in general in FIFA is more effective when you aim for the far post than when you aim for the middle, right? So when you aim for the far post and someone is making a fantastic run on those sides and just being able to bully a header into the back of net, someone like Ruud Gullit, right? If you're playing a 4-2-3-1 and you can have someone like Gullit on those sides, that bullet header trait is going to be very effective to use in FIFA. He's going to be an absolute monster, especially against the Zanetti card. Zanetti has the physical, but he doesn't have the traits to make up for it. If you look at traits, he has leadership and ultimate professional. We don't know what that does in the game, right? We don't know if traits being leadership, if you give him a captain armband, if his stats are increased by 10. We don't know what those traits do, right? So I'm not sure if those are like random things that EA throws in. It would be nice to know exactly what they did, but as of right now, we don't exactly know what those specific stats do. So in terms of Javier Zanetti, he looks like a great card. I still would rather use an informed Valencia over that Zanetti, though. Alessandro Nesta, so obviously right off the bat, the pace is just it's just far too low. But at the same time, he would still be very usable in the game, and he would still be a very, very fun center back to use. The reason why the pace is low is because if you're looking at competitive, it is low. But if you got him, like let's just say you're a FUT Champs player and you got like top 100 or something. If you were to get this card as one of your cards and you like having fun in FIFA and trying out different teams, Nesta is a really cool card to get, because if you give him Shadow, his acceleration and sprint speed will increase by a little bit. Now, here's the reason this card is not terrible, but it's not great, right? It's always these two things right here. Balance being 52, debatable whether it's bad or good, but the 38 agility as well as the lack of pace is what makes this card, for me, unusable as a prime icon. Nesta, in my opinion, along with Maldini, are the top 5 center backs I've ever watched play the sport. And in FIFA, it doesn't really replicate that well because of the lack of those specific stats. I think that if EA were to understand how these specific game mechanics in their game works, this is very unacceptable to have in the game, because again, this is one of the best center backs of all time, and just giving him these stats is what makes him very unusable. But he should be better than most center backs in this game. Maybe even all but Maldini, and maybe like a prime Rio Ferdinand, because Rio Ferdinand was an absolute monster during his prime, right? We all know this. Him and Vidic formed a crazy partnership. But Alessandro Nesta, it's like a downfall, right? That they don't increase his card in those specific stats more to make him more usable. Alessandro Del Piero is an interesting one. So the prime card I've actually used before. I have a lot of fun using this card. Don't worry about the balance being 68, because he does have 5'8" height, so it's not a huge deal, right? This card is so fun to use, right? Because if you look at his traits, right, he has the finesse shot trait, he has a shooting trait, he has a technical dribbler, right? He's just a ton of fun to use in this game. Absolutely love using him. Full meta-wise, debatable whether I would use him because of the lack of pace, but this card is a ton of fun to use. If you want to use this card and you want to have a card that's good at taking long shots, he's very, very consistent at taking shots inside the box because of that 5-star weak foot with 95 finishing, 86 shot power, and 93 composure. So much fun to use this card. The pace is 100% noticeable on the card, so be very careful with that. But I would highly recommend getting this card if you're a fan of Del Piero's, or you just want to have fun with the card. Medium work rates. If you're playing him in a 4-2-3-1 and you're playing him as a central cam, he would be so much fun to use, in my opinion, because he also does have decent passing stats in 89 passing and 80 long passing. So definitely worth trying him out as well. But that is going to conclude the video for today, guys. I know that I didn't go through all the prime icons in the game. The reason being is because we're already, I think, 40 or so minutes into the video. So if people do enjoy these types of videos, be sure to drop a thumbs up on it. And then we'll see if we upload a part 2, part 3, and all those things as well, to look at the specifics as to whether or not a card would play really good or really bad in game. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Again, guys, if you guys did enjoy it, please drop a thumbs up on it. It helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.